friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Let's Barbecue and also the Really Rainbow 6x6 pattern paper pad. So I've started by stamping out my images with Memento Tuxedo black ink on some Copic friendly cardstock since I'll be coloring with my Copic markers today. I'm starting with some reds. I'm using R29, R39, and R59. And this is my favorite red combination. And I'm going to be coloring the inside of the grill so that it looks like it's super hot. I've added the R59 all around the outside edge so it creates a nice shadow right around the lip of the grill. And then I'm going to pull that color towards the center with the R39. And then I'll fill in the entire center that remains with the R29. I'm also going to use that same combination of markers for the ketchup bottle, and I know that in my final card design I'm going to want this ketchup bottle to be upside down, so I'm keeping that in mind as I do my shading. I'm adding a little bit of shading on the left hand side with that R59, and then on the actual bottle part I also put a little thin stripe on the right hand side, and that's just going to help it look more rounded in appearance and lift it off the page. It'll be a little less flat looking. So then I'll just fill in with the R39 and the R29 just like I did on the grill. I went a little bit out of the lines on the red part of the grill, so I'm just going to touch that up with the colorless blender, and the same with the ketchup bottle, just pushing that color back. And then I'm going to move on to my steak, and I want it to look like it's still mostly raw, so I'm going to use some pinkish red shades. I'm using R43, R46, and R56. So I started with the R56 towards the bottom edge, and I'm coloring with the lighter two shades as I get towards the top. I'll use the YR000 to add some shading to the fat around the steak and also to the bone in the center. And then that wasn't quite dark enough for me. There wasn't enough contrast as compared to the rest of the steak. So I did add in the YR00 just to add a little bit more contrast around the very edges. For the hamburger bun, I'm using E50, E51, and E53. Starting with that E53, and I'm going to add my shading down on the bottom edge and then come up a little bit on both sides, but a little bit more on the right hand side, and then blending upward with the E51, and then I'll fill in just carefully around those little sesame seeds with the E50. For the actual hamburger, I'm using E23, E25, E27, and E29. I'm adding that E29 just a little bit on the ends. I like my burgers to be a little bit charred, so I wanted to have that little bit of a darker shade there on the sides. And then I'm coming in toward the center with the E27 and the E25, and then the E23 just right around that cheese. Moving on to the three little flames, I'm going to use the Y17, YR04, and YR07. I wanted it to kind of fade from a bright orange into a yellowish color. So I started with the YR07 down toward the bottom, and then I'm pulling that up with the YR04 and just softening that color. I'm also going to use the YR04 for the darkest on my little slice of cheese. And then I'll fill in the tops of the flames with the Y17 and also the rest of the cheese. For the mustard bottle, I'm going to keep the Y17 but also add in the Y15 and Y13. And I'm going to shade that exactly like I'm doing the ketchup, since this one is also going to be upside down. So I'm using the Y17 to create that shadow both sides, and then also a little bit on the left side of the nozzle. And then I'm pulling that color out with the Y15 and filling in with the Y13, just pulling that color towards the center and then covering up anything white that remains. My next combination is YG01, YG03, and YG05, and I'm going to use those shades to color in that tiny little bit of lettuce that's poking out of the burger. So I used the YG05 really close to the bun and then came down with the lighter shades since the sun would be hitting the edge that's sticking out the furthest. For the actual grill, I'm using BG11, BG13, BG45, and BG49. I wanted a pop of blue in here somewhere. I'm kind of doing a rainbow colored card here. If you can see, I've got red, pink, orange, yellow, green, and then I needed something blue, so I decided the grill would be a good object to do that with. So I started with the BG49 on the outside edges, and then I'm pulling towards the center with the BG45. Then I'm going to come in with the BG13, which is really similar to the BG45, but just a little bit shade lighter. And then I'll finish with the BG11. And that is going to give me a very nice highlight down the center of the grill. But these colors didn't blend super great. Sometimes on larger images especially, I have to go over things again with a second layer of color just to really help those colors blend so that the paper is more saturated and they can flow together a little more freely. So I'm just going back over each of those colors, starting with the BG49 on the outside edge again, and then pulling towards the center so that everything is nice and soft and seamless and there aren't any harsh lines there. For the legs of the grill, I just wanted them to be silver, so I'm using C1, C3, and C5. I used the C5 right up under the grill where it would cast the most shadow, and then I'm blending down with the other two colors. And then I'll also use those same shades to color in the metal part of the fork for flipping the steak. So I'm just going to do that really carefully since it's super thin there. Just using the very tip of my marker to get in those tiny little spaces. And then I'll just use the C1 to add a tiny bit of shading to my plate. And the last color that I need to complete my rainbow is purple. So I'm using V15 and V17 to color in the handle of the grill fork. So the V17 is my darkest. That's going to be my shadow color. And then I blend it out with the V15. Before I trim out these images with the matching dies, I wanted to add some faces to the ketchup and mustard bottles. So I just line those up using my Misty, and then I'm going to stamp those down with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, since that's the same ink that I used for the images. And I gave them a little bit of a tilt just to add a little bit more interest. While I have my Misty out, I'm going to take my focal panel, which is just a piece of pale blue cardstock trimmed down with the Lawn Fawn Stitch Rectangle Stackables, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment that says Relish the Day from the Let's Barbecue stamp set. Then I'll pop in my card base, and I'm going to use Lawn Fawn's Jalapeno ink to add a little hot dog and the sentiment that says Enjoy from the Tiny Tags Sayings stamp set. So I'm ready to assemble my focal panel. I've got a little strip of grass that I use the grassy borders to die cut the top edge with, and I'm going to glue that down to the bottom edge of the card. And then I've got a little hill that I use the stitched hillside borders and just trim that down so it can go behind, so I have a two-toned grass look. Then I can begin to add my images. I've added foam tape to the back of almost all of them. I'm going to put the hamburger on the plate and put that down in the bottom right corner. And then next comes the grill, since that's my largest image, and that's going to go a little bit higher on the far left. Then I can add my steak. So this one I'm not going to use foam tape with. I just want to have one level of foam tape there. So I'm going to add that right to the center of my grill. and then I'll add my flames behind. So I have 2 of the flames popped up with foam tape, and then just to add a little bit extra dimension, I'm going to adhere the 3rd one down with just some liquid glue. Then I'll take my mustard and ketchup bottles and add those to the area just above the hamburger. They're going to be kind of just hovering in the air there, and I gave them each a little bit of a tilt to make it look a little extra fun in the direction that their smiley faces are going. And then all that's left is the turning fork, so I'm going to add that down to the lower left corner. And then press everything down firmly. I've trimmed my rainbow stripe pattern paper down with the Lawn Fawn large stitched rectangle stackables, and I'm going to adhere that to my card base with some liquid glue. So it's going to cover the entire card front, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's a standard A2 size card. Then I'm going to take my focal panel and adhere that to another yellow stripe that was in the same paper pad. And then I'm going to pop that up with foam tape. So I'm going to grab some of my Scotch 3M foam tape from my large roll, and I'm going to add some to the back of that. I like to put quite a bit on there just to make sure that everything is supported well. And then I can peel off the release papers and line it up in the center of the card, just using my grid mat to make sure it's nice and straight. And then once I'm sure that it is, I'll press that down into place. So that is going to complete my card for today. There's another peek at the inside, and I think it's a super fun masculine card that would be great for so many occasions. I purposely left it vague, so it could be used for a birthday, retirement, Father's Day, really anything that you can think of. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and you can always leave me a comment down below. I love reading your feedback. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I invite you to do that. If you'd like to keep on watching, here's 2 extra videos I thought you might also enjoy. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.